And now, it's time for another Dice Tower review with Tom Vasel.
Hey folks, I'm Tom Vasel.
And I'm Melody.
Now, I'm sure that you have met some people that when you play games, they tend to be greedy. Well, that's kind of the theme of this whole game, is being greedy. In this game, you are one of the people in the kings or the earls or the barons or whatever of the land, and it is important to put statues of yourself up all over the land, because shouldn't people see your greatness? That's what I'm thinking. Surprisingly enough, the people who live in the land tend to get irritated about that sort of thing. You know, if you think about it, we put up an awful lot of statues. Anyhow, we'll take a look at how this game works, and we'll be back. Now, players are going to be building a board. This is a board for a 3-player game. We can add more for a 4-player game. And you're going to have some areas that are going to start face up and some areas that start face down. Each player is going to put a starting statue out on one of the planes. Players are going to have in front of them a castle, and this explains how the game works. And they have a bunch of statues here, 25 to be exact. If you get all your statues out, you will win the game. Well, the game can also end earlier than that. And the people are showing you no mercy at the beginning of the game. Now, the way each round of the game works is this. Each player is going to be going in a specific turn order at the beginning. And you are going to you're going to get these handed out depending on the number of players. So you'll be the queen or the king or the countess or the count or the duchess or the duke or the prince or the princess. The earl or the countess, sorry. Anyhow, you're going to turn these in. Whoever's player 1 is going to spin this spinner. Now, the spinner basically is just going to show how much turmoil there is. So here, this is the worst thing to roll, and that's a 5. There's a certain number of counters that are included with each number of player, and you're going to be taking 3 of those out randomly each round for a number of players. So if it's a 4-player game, we'll take 12 of these out. The rest are going to be scattered face down in between everybody else. A timer is put out, the timer is flipped, and then everyone at the same time is going to start grabbing tiles. With one hand, you look at the tile and decide if you want to keep it or put it back. So, okay, I'll keep that, and you'll keep going. When the timer runs out and someone shouts, "Stop, this phase is over," you will then turn over all the tiles that are left in the middle, and there better be 5 of each resource, or 2 of each resource, 3, 4, depending what number was spun. If there's not, then there's a revolt. People are very irritated. And they are going to, let's say there's not enough marble. They will then look around and see who took the most marble. Whoever took the most marble is going to lose followers. Followers are like a currency in the game. You can see they're in different denominations here. 3 followers you lose. And you also lose all your tiles except your smallest one of that type. So if you had the most of all 3 types, you're going to lose 9 followers and all your tiles except 1 of each type. Then, in turn order, each player is going to put out statues. Now, when you put out a statue, you're going to follow this chart here. This tells you how much resources it costs to put out a statue. So I can put out to put one out in another plains cost me a coin and a marble brick, and then in trees, and you can see they have different costs. This here, now normally statues have to go next to or adjacent to a spot that you already have on the board. However, you can build on a new plains or forest spot that's not next to your thing. So let's say I'm the purple player, perhaps I would want to build over here for my next one. So I'm going to pay double the cost to go there. Also, when you pay to go into a city or a castle, you're going to put out multiple statues. So 2 go into a city and 3 go into a castle. So players are going to take turns putting these out. After everyone has done putting out their statues, we will now count up how many followers everybody has. Whoever has the most followers becomes the new king or queen, and then turn order is determined that way. The king or queen will then lose 5 followers because no one likes them, but they also get to put out 1 statue here on the side of the board, which is essentially a way to keep track of turns. When we get to these 2 spots, more tiles are going to be turned over depending on the number of players, which will give people more areas to build in and possibly more cities and castles to go on to. Once we've reached this turn here, you'll notice there's a number here at the bottom, 7. If the highest player has at least that many more statues built than the lowest player, the game will end. Otherwise, the game will continue on and will keep going, although you'll see that number gets lower and the game will definitely end after this turn. And then whoever has the most statues out is the winner. Remember, if someone gets out all their statues, they automatically win. All right, Melody. Greed. Is greed a good thing?
No.
Wow, does this game ever punish you for being greedy? At the same time, if you're not a little greedy, I don't think you'll win.
Yeah.
Right, so it's really kind of interesting. Now, I know some people don't like the games where you're reaching in the middle, grabbing a tile, and pulling them out. There's tiles. But I think in this game kind of works that out. Because even if you're super fast, you might just be too fast, and you will be punished. Mm-hmm. It's kind of interesting because, and you can kind of play conservatively, but have enough followers so that you'll be getting the king more often than not, and getting to put out the free statues. What do you think?
Like, I noticed that when you're, like, grabbing the tiles, it's not just how many you grab, but, like, how many items you get. Like, you could still grab, like, few tiles, but still have more than everyone else.
Right, and I did mention it in the overview. When you pay to put something out, if you overpay, so let's say it costs 1 marble and 1 tool and 1 coin, and I pay 2 marble and 3 coins and whatever, and the amount I overpay by, I get extra followers. Mm-hmm. Except that you can't overpay with 1 tile. You can't, like, say, I'm going to pay 6 tools. Now, the most you'll ever overpay is 2. But you can get more followers that way. And so you're kind of trying to get more followers, but if you build really slowly, someone else might beat you by getting out a whole bunch of places. And also getting near towns and castles is a big deal.
Yeah.
This game isn't very deep. I mean, really, it's grab tiles, try to avoid
getting hurt,
being greedy, and then place them out on the board. And you do that over and over again. But it's not a very long game. It says on here 40 minutes. I think that's probably the upper limit. We're talking 30 to 40 minute game. And it will go even faster with 2 players. What do you think about the components?
They're okay. I think the little statue things, like the yellow ones, my sister, Amy, and we called them duckies.
Oh, you did? Well, I wasn't involved in that. I don't know that I liked it, but I will tell you I really like this castle piece. Because it shows how many you have, and then it shows how many are left. The numbers are right there. So I never have to go, how many castles do you have on the board? Easy. 12. It's very simple. And it also looks like a castle. It's cool. The other stuff is kind of, it looks okay. So this is kind of almost, it's not a filler, but it's definitely a lighter game. Mm-hmm. It's designed by the same guys who designed Catan, which is interesting. And it has kind of I don't know that this cover would actually make me buy the game. The cover almost looks too silly. The game is silly in its theme, but strategically there's enough going on. And the tiles will change. Sometimes it doesn't matter how greedy or not greedy you are. Sometimes the peasant, you just happen to have of one resource out there.
Yeah.
And then the peasants are mad. And I mean, how many modern Euro games are there with a spinner? I mean, a spinner. They could have made this a die, I think. And put 2 on one side, 5 on one side.
That happens.
Yeah, but you know what? The spinner's just kind of cool. And when everyone's spinning and everyone's watching it like, oh, be a low number, because, peasants are such a pain in the neck, I tell you.
Weren't you like king only like once and you happened to get the 5?
I don't believe we're pointing to any of that. Now, I like to see how different things work in games, so greed in this game, getting a lot of stuff. Sometimes it works out if you're lucky enough to have enough stuff left in the middle, but most of the time greed will come back to bite you.
Basically what I learned is just don't grab extra tiles. They don't
That's true. Good point. You don't grab tiles, you're like, I don't need this, but I'm going to take it so no one else gets it. You might pay for that. Will pay for that.
Maybe they can't build something, but that also means they have less items.
Right. So anyway, what's your final thoughts on Tumult Royale?
I thought it was fun, like just putting out little statues and filling out the king's spots. Like, we didn't go too far through that, but...
Well, and again, I think, like I said, I don't know that this is a very deep game. It's kind of like the same things over and over, but it feels different. It's interesting and unique. The theme is funny and entertaining, and it kind of, you're coming and doing things, and by the time you're like, I wonder when this game's over.
It's over.
It is. So anyway, that's Tumult Royale. Dice Tower Judgment. Approved.
Thanks so much for watching the Dice Tower videos. Find more great videos and reviews, as well as our top-rated audio podcast at Dicetower.com. You can also find other great shows at Dicetowernetwork.com. I'm Eric Summerer, and you've been watching The Dice Tower. The Dice Tower is sponsored by Cool Stuff Inc., where you can find great games for great prices. Cool stuff. Check them out at CoolStuffInc.com.